Hi, I'm Richie Zellin, and today I'd like to share with you 5 true and tried top jazz amps for every budget. So whether you're new to jazz guitar or a regular player thinking of upgrading your gear, please stick around for this great roundup. Welcome back to the Jazz Guitar channel. And if this is your first time and you want to learn everything you can about jazz guitar, please be sure to subscribe. In today's video, I'm going to do a countdown of 5 top jazz guitar amps from my least favorite to my personal first choice. These are all amps I either currently own or have used on gigs throughout the years. So I've had plenty of time to get to know them and experience their pros and cons. Having said that, I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of overly technical specs. If one of these amps sparks your interest and you want additional info, you can always look it up at your own convenience. What I am going to definitely share with you for each amp is 4 factors which I think we all need to know. The power rating and speaker size, which is important to know, especially if you're a gigging musician. Its weight, which is also important if you plan to move this baby around often. And the bottom line, its price. Now, before I begin, I just want to say that they all sound good for jazz, although some sound exceptionally good. Also, I want you to know that I make no profit from these reviews, nor from any sales that may result from them. So without further ado, here is my 5th choice, the Fender Twin Reverb. For decades, this was the undisputed king of the road and studio for many jazz guitarists worldwide. It's got 85 watts of pure tube power distributed over 2 12-inch speakers, so you'll have plenty of power to project your sound even in a fairly sized auditorium. For a long time, it was also the most powerful amp that you could find with a fairly clean output. Of course, as we explore some newer amps, we'll discover that this is no longer the case. Today, no jazz guitarist in his right mind would be caught dragging a twin reverb to a gig. Why? Simply because at a weight of 65 pounds, it's a real backbreaker. Today, when you see a jazz guitarist playing a twin reverb, most likely the amp belongs to the club or concert venue, because believe me, jazz guitarists don't make enough money to hire roadies or justify schlepping the thing themselves from gig to gig. The final con with the twin reverb is its price. It's currently around $1,400. And this is the highest priced amp of all the ones I will be reviewing, and it's also my least favorite jazz amp today. Now, if you like the classic Fender sound and you want a rehearsal amp or something to play, very small venues, I recommend the Fender Blues Jr. I've used it at many clubs and it's worked just fine. It has 15 watts of tube power, a 12-inch speaker, and weighs 31 pounds. You can pick a new one up for under $600. Now, if you want to hear this amp in a jazz setting, you should see a link about now where you can hear me playing a Blues Jr. at a small club gig. Before I get off the subject of Fender amps, I want to mention a great amp which I have in my possession. Unfortunately, it has been discontinued, and I am referring to the Fender Ultralight Jazzmaster. You should see a link about now where you can hear me playing an archtop through this amp at a fairly large concert hall. This was every jazz guitarist's dream amp when it first came out. Great tone, was powerful, light as a feather, has an XLR Line Out and a headphone jack, and consists of a 250-watt head weighing 7.5 pounds, and also a separate 12-inch speaker cabinet weighing only 17 pounds. And they started making the speakers using what they call the Neodymium technology to keep the weight down. But unfortunately, the dream didn't last. I bought one when they initially came out for around 900 bucks. It came with a 5-year warranty. I used it on several gigs, but on the 4th year, I started having issues. On one gig, it failed to power on and I had to plug into the PA system. However, when I took it back home, I tried it, it powered on again fine. Now again, a month later, it did not power on again at a gig. So still being under warranty, I sent it to be repaired. And they had to put a new power supply in. Now a few months went by and the new power supply failed. There were still a couple of months left in the warranty, so I sent it back. Again, they had to change the power supply. And guess what? Again, when I got it back, a month later, the power supply failed, only that this time, the warranty had expired. And I started reading in various guitar forums that lots of people had the same problem with this amp. And about 6 months later, Fender discontinued it. And let me add that several years later, the Fender George Benson amp model had even a shorter lifespan. I used one on a gig and it was a disaster. So much for Fender, let's move on. The 4th runner-up is the Roland Jazz Chorus 120, a very sturdy Rode amp. And back in the 80s, it pretty much took over where the Fender Twin left off. It has 120 watts of non-tube power, distributed through two 12-inch speakers and a super clean sound that can be enhanced with its stereo chorus effect. Although you can pick one up for a couple of $100 less than a Twin, it weighs almost exactly as much as a Twin, which is a deal breaker for today's jazz guitarist. However, if you like its sound and want one for practicing or even to play real small clubs, I recommend an option that Roland at least had. I'm talking about the Roland Cube. And I have a Cube 40 and it's exceptionally clean in a jazz setting. It has a 40-watt power rating, a 10-inch speaker, only weighs 20 pounds. But the sad news is that the entire Cube series was recently discontinued. But if you'll settle for a used one, this was a fairly popular amp and it shouldn't be too hard to find. What is great is that they are very affordable. You should be able to pick up a Cube 40 or even a Cube 60 for under 200 bucks. My 3rd runner-up is split between two Quilter amps, the Micro Pro Match 2 series and the 101 series. Quilter amps have a transparent tone and are usually pretty lightweight. Most of their amps are available as a head only or as a combo, head and speakers. That is the case with the Micro Pro Match 2. It has 2 channels with 100 watts each and one 10-inch speaker in the combo, weighing a mere 22 pounds. And this is because Quilter is also using the Neodymium magnet technology that I told you about earlier when I mentioned the Fender Ultralight. I should add that it also has a direct output for recording and an extra speaker jack. And you should be able to pick a combo for under $1,000. The other Quilter amp I recommend is only available as a head and is very small and portable. It's the 101 series mini head. It comes with 50 watts, has a very clean transparent tone, has digital effects, EQ, and weighs under 4 pounds. Great to travel with and hook up to any speaker or direct to a PA system. Also great for recording and practicing anywhere with just a pair of headphones. And you should be able to pick one up for around $400. My 2nd runner-up is the Clarus SL-R. SL-R head by Acoustic Image. And like Fender, Roland, and Quilter, Acoustic Image, as well as my final choice, are in the business of making amps exclusively with jazz musicians in mind. The first thing I have to make clear is that the Clarus SL-R is an amp head only. It has 300 watts, just one channel, 24-bit digital reverb and delay, a pre and post EQ selector, a direct out XLR, and weighs only 2 pounds. And it will do roughly everything the Quilter 101 series mini head does, but has more power and was made strictly with the jazz player in mind. And you can pick one up for just around $700. Now, if you need to purchase a speaker for either this amp head or the Quilter, I strongly recommend the Stealth 12 made by Razor's Edge. This cabinet with a 12-inch speaker has been designed specially to be used with an archtop, so it is probably your best choice. It'll run you about $400, and the Clarus amp head coupled with the Stealth 12 will run you about $1,100. It's a great and versatile combination if you can afford it. So having said that, I'm ready to introduce you to my final and personal top choice, the Hendrickson Jazz Amp 310. This is the amp I currently use on a daily basis and that you can hear on all my lessons throughout 2017 to date. If you were around during the 70s and 80s and listening to jazz guitar, you might recall an amp that every jazz guitarist used, the Polytone. I had one myself for the longest time. It was the cleanest and smallest amp you could find for jazz at the time. Joe Pass used to swear by it. Well, I and many players believe today that the Hendrickson Jazz Amp is now what the Polytone was back in its heyday. In terms of a small, clean, and powerful amp and speaker combo, this is definitely my first choice. If you want to really hear how the Hendrickson 310 sounds with my Heritage 575, which is like a Gibson 175 for those not familiar with it, check out the link to the video being displayed about now. This is me playing just 10 jazz blues heads back to back with this amp. And like Acoustic Image, Hendrickson builds amps specially with jazz players in mind. The 310 has a single channel, has 120 watts of clean, transparent tone distributed over one 10-inch speaker, a special tweeter, a 5-band graphic EQ digital reverb, an XLR Line Out, handy for recording or to go to hook up directly to a PA board, an extra speaker out, a headphone jack to practice, and weighs only 28 pounds. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. I hope this has been useful and I would really like to hear from you. So please leave me a comment and let me know if any of these amps are among your favorites. If you know of a great jazz amp that I've missed out on, also be sure to comment. Finally, if you haven't subscribed yet, please be sure to do so, and I will keep on delivering the jazz guitar goods. Have fun and see you in the next video.